Hey guys, welcome back. It's Al here from CreateApe. I'm here with Tim today.
Yep, Tim Abarda, web developer.
All right, and what we're talking about today is something that I think a lot of people take for granted in the tech space. We throw out terms like CTAs or UX designer or above the fold, things like that we just assume people will know, right? We realized after talking about it a little bit, especially with some of our clients, that they don't know. And so while this may be hitting some of you over the head, you can go ahead and skip to the next video. For some of you, this is actually pretty important, okay? And so one of the things that we wanted to talk about is, what is a UX UI designer? What is that? And what is a web developer? What do they do? What are the differences here? And this is important because a lot of times I think both you and I have had people in the past say, hey, can you go ahead and do this? And that this falls into the design camp or the development camp, which isn't what we necessarily do, right? So I think I'll take a first stab at it when we talk about UX UI. So UX design is the infrastructure, the layout, the placement of copy and content for a specific composition, right? So a good example of that is you're going to see wireframing. Wireframe is one of the most utilized tools in the UX designer's tool belt, right? They're going to wireframe out whether it's on a whiteboard or they're using Sketch to actually create like mid-fidelity designs. They're going to be creating this and they're going to be handing it off to stakeholders or user testing or things like that. That is a big part of UX design. There's other things involved too, like flow maps and things of that nature we could talk about another time. But the biggest thing around UX design is they're trying to work with the stakeholder to translate their idea into an intelligent layout and design around that. But it generally is not colored in at that point. It's not like a high fidelity mock-up. If I were to put a wireframe and tell you to code a wireframe, you'd be coming to a page that is kind of black and white with a bunch of lines and buttons and things like that on the page that it's not drawn in. A good analogy of this is going to be building a home, right? So when you build a home, you go to an architect. The architect, they draw it out. They're okay, this is where everything goes. But the builder is the guy who's actually bringing it to life, right? So that goes into UI design, user interface design, right? UX, user experience, UI, user interface. A user interface designer, he will take what the UX designer has produced and he will color it in, he will add the style guide, the branding, the spacing, all of the things that a web developer, front-end developer is gonna wanna know so that they can do their part. Now, this is a little bit siloed, a little broken up, because more often than not, especially if you're working with a proper villain, if you don't know what I'm talking about, a proper villain, click on our video below around proper villains. A proper villain, he's going to be both, right? He's going to do UX, he's going to do UI, he's going to know what he's doing. He might even have a little bit of front end. It's awesome because when he talks to you, he's going to be able to be like, hey man, okay, here's a site, mobile responsive. I did a home page for you and a product detail page that's responsive. Just try to copy over the universal elements, stuff like that. He's going to start saying things to the web developer to make his life easier, which is going to be better for you because costs are lower, everything's going to run more smoothly. So that's UX, UI. Talk to us a little about web development. What does a web developer do? How do you break that up?
So kind of to build off his point, web development starts once that kind of handoff happens, after it's been wireframed, after it's been designed. We get the kind of art, the images. Good development basically starts, honestly, even before that, kind of in the planning phases,
being involved
in the design meetings and stuff like that. Because then the developer really will know, and this separates, like you were saying earlier and alluding to, proper villains from just people who want to get it done. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have a good idea even before that of kind of what the site is, what the flow is going to be, kind of challenge areas, stuff like that. Once I kind of get that, we start thinking about the stack. So we start thinking about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, DOM manipulation, all that kind of technical jargon. But if you plan well, makes the project go way smoother.
Right.
Sure.
Right. So, and when it comes to web development, I think something that people don't necessarily realize is that you can have full stack developers, which means they do front end development. That's what you actually see in your browser. The user interacts with. It's the art. It's the buttons. It's the JavaScript. All that type of stuff. And then there's the back-end development, right, which is what it's built on. Sometimes it's WordPress or Magento.
And that's kind of the next step, sort of after what I was talking about earlier. Once the UI elements are made from the design, from there you start thinking about the back-end. What SQL, what database technology are you going to use? What do you need to use? Is there going to be geolocation? Do you need to do that? So all those different questions and planning that out I can't stress this enough, from the design phase even,
Yeah.
really, really helps in the long run with technical debt, with, you know, writing code that's maintainable, that's good, and that will age well.
Right, and you know what? You're going to want to join us next week as we talk about the challenges in offshore development, because what Tim just talked about right now, technical debt, aging well, things like that, it is a minefield in offshore development. Not always, and I'm not throwing salt at our fellow brothers and sisters across the lake that do development, but more often than not, it's a bit of a challenge. And so it's definitely something you're going to want to join us for. Don't forget to subscribe, click the link below, and we'll talk to you next week.